boys and girls. Let me ask you a question. Do you like making plans? Maybe you are planning your birthday party for this year. You know exactly what cake you want. A unicorn one, of course. You know what friends you're going to invite to your party. You've got it all planned. Maybe you're planning your next holiday. Where you're going, what you're going to do while you're there. Of course, it involves water slides and the beach and lots of fun things. Or maybe you're planning what trick to play on your sister next. Don't tell anyone, but I'm planning what tricks I can play on Auntie Cindy when we get back to Kids Club. Shh, don't tell her. Now, sometimes we make big plans, like our next holiday, and sometimes they're small plans, like what we're going to do today. But whatever the case is, we all make plans. And today, we're going to cross over to our friends at Quizwork, and we're going to find out what God's big plan is. Let's go take a look.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt, and today we're going to keep thinking about what the Bible teaches on the topic of suffering.
All right, Matt, I've got our next question.
Okay, everyone, this is my friend Reg.
Oh, hi, everyone. So, Matt, we have our next question.
Right, but I haven't even done the summary of what we've learnt so far.
Oh, we already know all that.
Really?
Yeah, the Bible gives lots of answers and some not answers.
Good.
Yeah, but the Bible is clear.
Yeah.
God is always good, always loving, and always in control.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And in all things, God's working for the good, the good of those who love Him.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right. And God understands suffering. Because Jesus, God the Son, He knew suffering as well. And He knew that suffering would not win in the end.
Well done, Reg.
Yeah, us puppets are very smart, you know. So anyway, here's our next question.
Okay.
What is God's ultimate plan?
What is God's ultimate plan?
Yeah, that's right. If Jesus has shown that suffering will not win in the end, what will? What's God's ultimate plan?
Another great question.
And do you have another great answer?
Well, the Bible does. How about we watch this video to help us think about what the Bible teaches?
It was an ordinary Sunday morning. Birds were chirping, cars were driving, and kids were playing. And Chrison, Laura, Kevin, and Chi were all sitting in church. Chrison, Laura, Kevin, and Chi all loved Jesus, and they loved meeting with the rest of God's people at St. Bob's Bell-Bottom Church. As they sat, the minister was talking. I'm sure we all have things and places and people we love, things that make you happy. As soon as he said these words, each child immediately began thinking of the things that made them the happiest. Chrison thought back to flying down a hill at breakneck speed, swerving this way and that. He felt free as the wind whipped through his hair. He flew past parked cars and bins and people out for their daily stroll. Chrison loved riding his skateboard. This was the thing that made him happy. Laura thought back to playing fetch in her backyard with her dog Basher. Basher was such a scary name for a dog. Oh, but he was such a sweet, gentle thing. He just loved to snuggle up close next to Laura. But whenever Laura would pull out a ball, Basher would get so excited. It was time to play fetch. Laura loved her dog. This was the thing that made her happy. Kevin thought back to eating lunch at the best school in the world, Bell-Bottom Primary School. It wasn't the schoolwork that made Bell-Bottom Primary School the best in the world, and it wasn't the teachers, no. It was Kevin's best friend, Andy. Andy was awesome. Every lunchtime, Kevin and Andy would eat their lunches together, laughing, joking, and talking about Jesus. Kevin loved his friend. He was the one who made him happy. Chi thought back to her long chats with her grandma. Every Saturday, Chi would come over to visit her grandma, and they would chat for hours and hours. Her grandma had so many incredible stories of when she was young, and about how she had met Granddad, and about the silly things that Dad and Uncle Joe used to do when they were little boys. And Grandma would teach Chi things as well, things like sewing and knitting, and even more important things too, like how to keep trusting Jesus, even when it may be hard. She loved her grandma. She was the one who made her happy. Back at St. Bob's Church, Chrison, Laura, Kevin and Chi kept listening as the minister continued to talk. But while we all have things and places and people we love and which make us happy, we all know that here on this earth, these things don't last forever. We all know what it is to be sad. As soon as he said these words, each child began thinking about how they had been sad too. Chrison woke up and everything hurt. One moment he had been flying down yet another hill. The next moment he was flying through the air like some kind of out-of-control Superman. He was raced off to hospital and it was made official. Both of his arms and his legs were broken. And to make matters worse, his skateboard had been smashed to pieces. Chrison had been in pain for weeks. Laura stood in the backyard calling and calling, but no matter how much she called, Basher did not come. One morning, Laura walked out to the backyard and the gate was open, and Basher was missing. For the next week, Laura had searched throughout the town. She even looked up trees, though she knew that dogs don't climb trees. But Basher was nowhere to be found, and Laura could not stop crying. Kevin was sitting on a chair at the worst place in the world, Bell-Bottom General Hospital. Kevin knew that Bell-Bottom General Hospital helped lots of people, but Kevin hated it. He hated it because Andy, his best friend in the whole wide world, was here. Andy was sick and had to keep coming into hospital for the doctors to look after him. And Kevin could tell Andy was suffering. Chi just could not stop crying. Last Saturday, Chi had gone to her grandma's house, but her grandma had not been well enough to get out of bed and talk to her. And then a few days later, Chi's grandma had passed away and gone to be with Jesus. And now Chi sat crying and crying at her grandma's funeral. Death had taken her away. Chrison, Laura, Kevin and Chi came back to the present. The minister had picked up the Bible and continued talking. We all know what it is to be sad. We all know what it is to lose loved things and loved ones. But God has made a great promise for all who trust in Jesus. God promises that one day Jesus will return and he will make all things right. Have a listen. Revelation 21 says, God will make his home among his people. God will wipe all tears from their eyes, and there will be no more death, suffering, crying, or pain. These things of the past are gone forever. As soon as he said these words, each child immediately began thinking about how wonderful this would be. Chrison smiled as he imagined standing, arms raised in victory. All would be put right. Jesus would return, and Chrison would be able to use his legs again. He would be able to use his arms again. They wouldn't be dodgy and out of shape anymore. He would be able to leap and jump and dance, and maybe he thought he may even be able to ride his skateboard again. Chrison smiled. When Jesus returned, all pain would be gone forever. Laura smiled as she imagined being surrounded by animals. All would be put right. Jesus would return. And Laura had read in the Bible that when this happened, the wolves would lay down with lambs, and goats and leopards would play together, and children will feed lions. Wow, how great that would be. And maybe she thought there may even be a dog just like her Basher who would play fetch. Laura smiled. When Jesus returned, all tears would be gone forever. Kevin smiled as he imagined playing with his best friend Andy. All would be put right. Jesus would return. And because both Andy and Kevin trusted Jesus, Kevin knew that they would get to spend as much time together as they wanted. This was going to last forever. And so they would be able to talk and laugh and play, and they would continue to speak of Jesus together. Never again would they have to be stuck in a hospital. Kevin smiled. When Jesus returned, all suffering would be gone forever. Chi smiled and smiled and smiled as she imagined the great reunion. All would be put right. Jesus would return, and Chi would see her grandma again. Her grandma who had loved Jesus so much. Her grandma who had loved Chi so much. They would see each other again. They would laugh, they would talk, they would recall time spent together, and they would never again be parted. Chi smiled. When Jesus returned, death itself would be gone forever. As Chrison, Laura, Kevin and Chi came back to the present, the minister was getting more and more excited. And God's great promise is not just for us. God's great promise is for all who trust Jesus. for all who have given their lives over to him. We won't just be individuals all enjoying our own private happiness. We will all share it together. And what is more, the very best thing about all of what Jesus will bring is that Jesus will be the one who brings it. Jesus, the one who is all-powerful. Jesus, the one who cares completely. Jesus, the one who has defeated all the enemies of sin and the devil and death itself. He will be there. And together we will all worship God and enjoy him forever. Amen. Chrison, Laura, Kevin and she were so excited that they yelled, Amen, at the top of their voices. What a great promise. Come, Lord Jesus, come. The end.
Wow, that is really cool.
It is. But Reg, you asked,
Yeah.
What is God's ultimate plan?
Yeah.
Well, the Bible is clear. God's ultimate plan is a brand new, perfect, fixed up world where nothing bad will ever happen ever again.
Woohoo! Baked beans all round! Yeah!
And what will be especially great about this brand new, perfect, fixed up world is that everyone who trusts Jesus will get to share it with the God who is always good, always loving, and always in control.
Wow, that does sound good.
It does indeed.
Well, I better go and tell the puppets the answer.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, after I go and find some more baked beans. Bye.
See you, Reg. Well, the Bible is very real. It doesn't hide from us the fact that this world can be really hard sometimes. But the Bible gives us a great and real hope. God's ultimate plan is a brand new, perfect, fixed up world where everyone who trusts Jesus will one day get to live with the always good, always loving, and always in control God. Now, of course, that doesn't mean our sufferings now hurt any less. But it does give us something to look forward to. It gives us a real hope. And if something that we said today makes you sad, well, make sure you talk to someone, to your mum or your dad or somebody who you live with, or maybe just somebody at church. Or just talk to somebody who you know, who loves you and who loves Jesus. All right, we'll see you next time.
So in today's video, Reg asked, what is God's ultimate plan? And we saw that in the Bible, God has a great and wonderful plan for those who trust Jesus. So here's some questions for you to think about what we learned. Under 5s, what makes you happy? 5 to 7-year-olds? What is the wonderful thing that everyone who trusts in Jesus can look forward to? 8 to 11s? What are some of the amazing things that the Bible tells us will be in God's brand new, perfect, fixed up world? What will the greatest thing of all be? And over 11s, when you go through hard times, how does knowing God's ultimate plan help you get through? Go ahead, pause and answer those questions for your age group. And then if you've forgotten, go and grab your coolest rap gear and come back because we're going to rap our memory verse together. Off you go.
Jesus healed a paralyzed man who was brought to him.
Are you ready to rap? Let's give it a go. We're going to do it once slowly and then we're going to speed it up a bit the second time. You ready? In all things, God's working for the good of those who love him. In all things, God's working for the good of those who love him. And what is that good, you ask? I say, what is that good? And what is that good, you ask? I say, what is that good? It's to be made like his son, Jesus, to be made like his son. to be made like his Son Jesus, to be made like his Son. Romans 8 verse 28. Romans 8 verse 28. Romans 8 verse 28. Romans 8 verse 28. Word. Are you ready to speed it up a bit? Let's give it a go. 3, 2, 1. In all things, God's working for the good of those who love him. In all things, God's working for the good of those who love him. And what is that good, you ask? I say, what is that good? And what is that good, you ask? I say, what is that good? It's to be made like his Son Jesus, to be made like his Son. To be made like his Son Jesus, to be made like his Son. Romans 8 verse 28. Romans 8 verse 28. Romans 8 verse 28. Romans 8 verse 28. Word. Well done, boys and girls. See you all next week. Bye.